Thank you all for joining us. We're at O Con 5 2019 in Council Bluffs, Iowa at the Mid-America Center. We are in the Project-Nerd Pavilion in our live stream area, powered by Phineas Coffee, coffee for gamers. And we are here with...
I'm Jesse Bergman.
Who do you represent? And
I am the founder of a company called Punch It Entertainment out of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Wonderful. Okay, so you've got a game to share with us today. We will kind of show it off here. So what do you have for us? Explain what we got.
So it kind of started back in 2009. I started developing a card game. I've been a card game player since 1993 as an original Magic the Gathering player. But when it first came out, nobody knew what it was. And then I played all the way up until about 2000 for Magic. And then I started playing another game in 2001 called the Versus System from Upper Deck Entertainment. And so that was kind of where my comic book nerddom comes from, because I love comic books. And so Versus was Marvel characters fighting against DC characters, and it was these crazy matchups. So those games kind of inspired me to build my own card game. And I was also in game design school at the time. So it was kind of a project that I was doing for school, but then ultimately turned into a real product later, sort of by accident. We can get into that. But so Battle for Sularia is the game that I made, and it's an expandable card game. So one of the things that a lot of trading card games and collectible card games do is they have these random packs, and you open these packs, and you hope you get cards that you can use or trade with somebody else to make work in your own deck, right? We got rid of all of that. We just said, no, we're going to give everybody all the cards and let them be able to play with the best cards possible and let them figure out the best decks and then be the better player than somebody else. So in 2015, we ran a Kickstarter for this project, successfully funded it, obviously. We're sitting here today. And kind of the rest is history. We've expanded it 3 times since then, and we're working to add more expansion content to it in the future.
Wonderful. So you said you started this as a project at school. Obviously... And I talk about this a lot. So we have a podcast called Meeple Skills where I talk about a lot of different tabletop games. But anymore, especially for folks like us who are fans of Magic the Gathering, it is so hard to design a game that doesn't take some of its elements from Magic.
Yeah.
Because Magic's such a solidly well-designed game.
Absolutely.
And has kind of put itself in that position.
Of course.
So other than Magic, what card games did you draw inspiration from?
Yeah. Heavily from the Versus system, which is now a defunct game. It doesn't exist any longer. Like many of the CCGs of the middle 2000s, they came and went.
Right.
But definitely the Versus system was a big inspiration. But really my primary driver for this game and inspiration was real-time strategy video games.
Really?
So if you're a fan of StarCraft or you're a fan of Command & Conquer and the old Warcraft games, then this game is going to feel very similar to those kinds of games. So what you get out of this is you get the opportunity to be building a base. That base that you build up is going to allow you to deploy your units, and then you're going to be attacking your opponent's base, and they're going to be attacking our base. That's how we're going to deal damage to each other, and ultimately somebody's going to win the game that way.
Sure.
So it's very much kind of built in that fashion. Now we added some stuff to make it a card game because, to be honest, when you test tech trees in paper form, it doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
It's not very much fun. I'll just
I'll
just put that out there.
That micromanagement's not as
fun
when it's not happening instantly when you click the button.
Right, exactly. Oh, wait a minute. I have to move this thing around, and it gets to be a mess. So we added in replacement for kind of tech trees, we added in what we call our tactics and condition cards, which are cards that operate like instants in Magic or plot twists in Versus, for those fans watching that maybe know that. And then also condition cards, which are kind of they're kind of like enchantments in Magic. I mean, that's the best way I can associate it.
Abilities that stay and are static.
Exactly. Yeah, they permanently change the battlefield. So they're an ongoing effect that changes the battlefield forever.
Sure.
So in this game in particular, and I've got some cards laid out, there are 4 kinds of cards in the game. They have the tactics and conditions, like we already talked about. We have our sites, which I kind of alluded to, and then we also have our combatants. So if we're looking at the screen, like sites are something like Bergheim here, which is a unique location in the world of Sularia. In fact, we've developed a ton of world building around this game. Right now on our website is 31 chapters of free science fiction regarding this game right now.
That sounds great.
Yeah, if you love science fiction and you want to read it, More
Do
the
you
merrier.
write that, or is it?
No, we contracted a writer out of Kansas City to do that.
Oh,
so
very
his
cool.
name's Matthew Ox, and he's an awesome guy.
I wonder if I know him.
I don't know.
I live in Kansas City, so
yeah, I think he's in Lawrence now, but he was in Kansas City for quite a while.
I'll say, I mean, I know some writers in Kansas City.
It's very possible you might know Matthew. So he's a great dude. He does it on the side. But he got into our game, and he's like, I really want to write fiction. I'm like, of course, we'll let you. And we paid him for his work because we thought it was great, and now it's turned into the official lore for Battle for Sularia.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Bergheim is a unique location in the world of Sularia. It's one of 9 Jotun biodomes. They are kind of a godlike human race that has been working over a millennia to genetically perfect the human genome.
Oh, wow.
And so they've come pretty close. I'm not sure they're perfect quite yet. But there's a little plot twist and intrigue in that. But they created the Scythian, which is the red faction here, about 500 years ago because they were still needing the resource Solarium, which is what we're all fighting for on this world. And Solarium is literally their batteries, but they became kind of self-aware over that process. They built 2 AIs that became self-aware and led a uprising against the Jotun. But instead of I know you can't ever trust the machine AI. But they didn't actually fight because the Jotun weren't prepared to be military at that point. They were kind of a dominant force in the world of Solaria, and so with this uprising of this machine empire, like they just weren't in a position to actually go to war.
Okay.
And so they made some sort of backhanded deal between the Emperor of the Jotun and the leader of the Scythian named Animus Vox and the all robotic life left Jotun society 500 years ago.
Okay.
Now the Jotun are starving. I mean, of course. And so they did spend the last of their resources to militarize themselves and become what they believe is perfect fighters for military. And so I like to affectionately call them our space Vikings because they're inspired by Norse mythology.
I was going to say that Jotun.
It's based on the Jotun, which is a Norse version of the Vanir, which is the Titans of Greek mythology.
Right.
So they are now left their biodomes. They've left the sanctity of their biodomes. They're now waging war with the Scythian in what we call our starter set, The Battle Begins.
Okay.
Since that has happened, though, there's been a whole kind of host of human beings that have been surviving in the waste for the last millennia, and that has become our yellow faction here called the Solarian. They're not all human anymore. They've lived in the worst possible environment you can imagine. So they've mutated, they've evolved. Some of them have been able to tap into magical properties. Some of them are just kind of scum and villainy. It's the whole thing, right? And so the Solarian, they're just scavengers. They're nomads. They wander the waste. They scavenge from the waste. They play on a different field than everybody else. But they accidentally discovered a bioweapon.
Okay.
And that's our green faction. That's the Protoan.
Oh, okay.
So we're getting ready to come into Season 2 right now, which will talk a lot more about the Solarian and the Protoan as a lore goes. But the Protoan are a bioweapon that was being genetically engineered before this cataclysmic event that screwed up the whole world. Mm-hmm. And they got buried in the rubble, and the Solarian, through their scavenging, accidentally unleashed them on the world. And they rapidly multiply. They're a swarm. So if you're familiar with Zerg from StarCraft, that's your faction. If you were a Zerg player, you want to play Protoan all day long. So, so of course, like any good world where there's war at play, there's mercenaries.
Sure.
Mercenaries are out for hire.
Yeah.
So anybody can hire them in any deck and use them for their advantage.
Okay. So with a card game, one of the big questions is always organized play. Is there anything like that you guys are supporting at the moment?
I've got to admit, I'm an indie developer. There's 2 of us working out of a basement.
Yes.
So I don't have the big money to do that. Right. So where our organized play is really kind of a grassroots movement. So we're working with players around the country to kind of establish Battle for Solaria in their local stores. We work with those local stores to make sure that they can have a fresh supply of products. And then we also work to build up organized play around that. So we've done things like full art promo cards, foil promo cards, alternate art cards. We are definitely doing that. We just don't do it on the specific tight schedule that you expect from somebody like a Wizards or a Fantasy Flight Games.
Right, and that's completely understandable. I don't think anyone faults you for that. So distributing to the local game stores is always great. And so are you traveling to a lot of conventions right now? Or?
Well, when we first started this, I did 22 conventions in a year.
Wow.
And it was a lot of work, for sure. But we've the problem you run in with that with 2 developers only is that it gives me 0 time to actually make the game.
Yeah.
So we have scaled our convention travel down substantially. We do a lot of local cons now, but we've definitely had a presence at Origins. In fact, we were a sponsor of Origins in 2014.
Oh, okay.
So we've done some of the larger gaming cons over the years. We just now make better decisions on what we're going to do based on our available time.
Sure.
We learned a few time lessons.
Yeah.
in that
Well,
process.
and I've talking with some game developers before. It's important to hit the really big conventions because that's your big exposure.
Right.
So Gen Con, Origins,
Yep.
places like that are always great to go to.
Absolutely.
And then again, you do want to hit these local, smaller ones. A, they're cheaper to do.
Yep.
And B, you get those kind of local players like, oh yeah, I met this guy from Lincoln, Nebraska.
That's right.
Who put this game together? It's really good. Here, check it out.
That's right.
And you kind of get that word of mouth, going. So that's
yeah,
awesome.
and we actually find we have more time to spend with would-be potential clients, so we get to chat more, we get to talk about the game more. We get when you go to a Gen Con, I have about 15 seconds to work with you.
Yep.
Because there's 4 other people wanting to talk to me as well, right? And so I'm just one person at the end of the day. And so you kind of look at it and you go, okay, do I really want to share and get somebody really passionate about our project, or do we want to get somebody that just buys our project, takes it home, plays it a couple of times, and then puts it on a shelf with the hundreds of other games that they own?
Right.
Those people are great too. But right now I need people that are passionate, that just really love our product.
For sure. So science fiction is starting to become more prevalent in card games, but for a while it's really just kind of stuck to that fantasy, magical kind of feel.
Right.
So you mentioned StarCraft in particular as a big inspiration for the game. What other kind of science fiction projects did you kind of pull inspiration, whether it's from the world building perspective or even the game mechanics?
Oh, for sure. So mechanically, I mean, I used to be a old Warhammer 40K gamer, tabletop gamer. I was an Eldar player. Go Eldar. But so definitely Eldar. Like the Warhammer 40K universe had some inspirations for me in this process. But also, of course, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So Star Wars definitely. I have my little jabs at Star Wars in here.
Sure.
So where I can get away with it safely before Disney starts sending me letters.
Yeah. Or with Fantasy Flight.
or Fantasy Flight, that's right. And then I also have lots of love for things like Mad Max, Blade Runner, going back even deeper. Some of the like John Carter stuff even has some inspiration in this. And then, when you start talking about other properties, Alien, of course, Terminator. I mean, I literally have stompy robots. How could I not be
you got a little bit of everything in there, which is
because
great.
I'm always been a huge sci-fi fan. Just from ever since I was a little kid and I saw Star Wars I saw Return of the Jedi in the theaters. That was when I was old enough to finally go and remember a movie in the theaters. That was the first time I legitimately remember that as my first movie. So I've always been big sci-fi fan.
All right. Anything else? Where can people find you online? Where can they get the game?
Yeah,
things
sure.
like that.
Well, Chris, we're on all the socials. So Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Just Sularia BCG for those. Or you can just go right to Punch It Entertainment. That's the name of our company. It'll link all to those as well. Also, our website is either solaria.com or punchitent.com. Both of them will work for you. We have a Discord community. You can join us right there and interact with other Sularia players. I actually have a tabletop simulator mod for this game as well. So if you have tabletop simulator on Steam, you can try the game digitally and see if it's for you, which is definitely a barrier of entry to try to reduce that barrier of entry. And then, of course, we sell the game directly on our website. And if you've got a local store that you love and you want them to carry this game, have them reach out to us. We'll work with them to make sure they can get product.
Sure. Awesome. Make sure to check out Punch It Entertainment online on all the socials. Thank you for joining us here at the Project-Nerd Pavilion. It's been live stream powered by Phineas Coffee. And we will see you later for more of the con.